Spring is here and the shopping list is long. Time to make a Lowe's run. Buy 3 bags, get 3 free of Stay Green 1 cubic foot garden soil. Plus, right now members can earn 4 times the points on an eligible purchase. Start spring off strong with these deals and more. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 3/25 while supplies last. Soil offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. See Lowe's.com/terms for details. Subject to change. Point boosters subject to exclusions and more terms apply. One-time only offer.
Welcome to the Ramayana, Stories of Dharm and Devotion. I'm Sandeep, your storyteller, guiding you through the eternal journey of Valmiki's Ramayana. Our narrative draws deeply from Valmiki's original text and is enriched with stories from other Indian traditions, offering you a complete and immersive experience of this eternal tale. Share this podcast with your loved ones and let the timeless lessons of the Ramayana inspire your journey. In our previous episode, the skies above Lanka were filled with illusion and fear. Indrajit had hidden himself in darkness and struck like a shadow. The Vanars had seen Sita fall, and grief had shaken even the heart of Ram. But truth had emerged through Vibhishan. The death was false. A deeper danger was rising. At Nikumbhila, a ritual had begun that could make Indrajit unstoppable. And so, Lakshman had set forth, with Hanuman and Vibhishan by his side, to stop that fire before it could change the fate of the war. In today's episode, the battle reaches its turning point. We will see Lakshman confront Indrajit at the sacred fire. We will hear harsh words between blood and dharm, as Vibhishan stands against his own kin. We will witness a fierce war of arrows, where the sky itself trembles under their power. We will see Hanuman shatter the ritual and drag Indrajit down from the skies. We will feel the intensity of a battle where divine weapons clash, and no warrior steps back. We will witness the final moment, where Lakshman calls upon truth itself and releases an arrow that ends the terror of the worlds. We will then see Lanka break under grief. Raavan will fall from his throne. Mandodari will cry for her son. And in Ashok Vatika, Sita will hear the news and reflect on the strength of Lakshman and the path that led her here. Back in Ram's camp, we will see joy return, wounds heal, and hope rise stronger than ever. The fall of Indrajit will bring the war to its final edge. Join me now, as courage defeats illusion, as dharm stands firm against pride, and as the path clears for the final battle between Ram and Raavan. The night in Lanka was heavy and silent. A strange tension filled the air. Far away, under a vast banyan tree, flames rose into the sky. The fire was not ordinary. It was part of a powerful ritual. Indrajit stood there. His eyes were closed. His body was still. Mantras flowed from his lips like a dark river. This was no simple yagya. If he completed it, he would become invincible in battle. At that very moment, Vibhishan moved swiftly through the forest. Beside him walked Lakshman, calm but alert. Vibhishan pointed ahead and spoke in a low voice, "Lakshman, look there. That is Indrajit. He is performing a sacred rite. If he finishes it, no one will be able to defeat him." Lakshman's eyes narrowed. Vibhishan continued, "You must strike now. Do not let him complete this ritual. This is the only moment when he is vulnerable." Lakshman nodded. His grip tightened on his bow. As they stepped closer, the crackling of the fire grew louder. Suddenly, Indrajit opened his eyes. He had sensed them. His gaze fell on Vibhishan and then on Lakshman. A cruel smile appeared on his face. He stood up slowly and laughed. He said, his voice filled with anger and mockery, "Uncle Vibhishan, you have fallen so low. Now you have told even the gravest of Lanka's secret to our enemies. The world will never forget you, neither will they forget your treachery." He walked forward, his eyes burning. He continued, "You bring my enemy to this sacred place? You betray your own blood? Your own kingdom?" His voice grew harsher as he said, "You are a disgrace. You have abandoned your brother. You have abandoned your own people. You stand here like a coward, hiding behind Ram's army." Vibhishan did not step back. He stood firm. His voice was calm, filled with truth. He said, "I did not abandon dharm. Raavan did." Indrajit's expression hardened. Vibhishan continued, "I warned him many times. I asked him to return Sita. I asked him to walk the path of righteousness. But he chose ego. He chose sin." He raised his hand slightly toward Lanka and said, "A kingdom built on adharm cannot stand. A king blinded by pride cannot lead." Then his eyes turned sharp and he said, "And sadly you, Indrajit, the mightiest warrior of Lanka, you follow that same path." Indrajit's anger flared like the fire behind him. But Vibhishan did not stop. He pointed toward Lakshman. He said, "Look carefully. This is Lakshman, the brother of Ram." His voice grew stronger when he said, "You and your army, none of you will survive the range of his arrows." The air itself seemed to freeze. Lakshman stepped forward. Calm. Silent. Focused. He lifted his bow slowly. The string tightened. The moment had come. Indrajit raised his weapon. And then the sky filled with arrows. A fierce battle began. Indrajit moved like a storm. His hands were fast. His aim was deadly. In a single moment, he released a rain of arrows. 7 arrows struck Lakshman. 10 arrows struck Hanuman. And 100 arrows pierced Vibhishan. All at once. The force was so strong that the ground trembled. But Lakshman did not fall. He stood firm. His eyes burned with focus. Without wasting a breath, he lifted his bow again. His arrows flew like lightning. 1, 10 and 100. They struck Indrajit repeatedly. With a loud crack, Indrajit's armor shattered. Pieces fell to the ground. Indrajit's face darkened. Now his anger had no limits. He roared and released a storm of arrows. Thousands of arrows rushed toward Lakshman. They hit him with terrible force. His body was covered with wounds. Still, he did not step back. The battle went on. Arrow after arrow. Strike after strike. The sound of bows echoed through the forest. The sky was covered with weapons. Time itself seemed to stop. Seeing Lakshman fighting alone, Vibhishan stepped forward. He joined the battle. He fought beside Lakshman, protecting him, giving him space to breathe. At that moment, Hanuman looked toward the sacrificial fire. The flames were still burning. The ritual was not yet fully broken. Hanuman understood. He thought, if this continues, Indrajit will gain his power again. Without hesitation, Hanuman uprooted a huge tree. With great strength, he lifted it high and flung it straight into the fire. The flames scattered. The sacred fire broke apart. The ritual was destroyed. But Hanuman did not stop there. To ensure nothing remained, he rushed forward. He scattered the offerings. He destroyed everything that was part of the yagya. He even mocked the ritual by spoiling it completely. Indrajit saw this. His eyes turned red with fury. His voice shook with rage and he said, Hanuman. He turned away from Lakshman and aimed his arrows at him. A deadly stream of arrows flew toward Hanuman. But Hanuman smiled. He leaped into the air. He moved with incredible speed. Left, right, above and below. Every arrow missed. Like the wind itself, he avoided each one. Now Indrajit was trapped. His ritual was gone. His anger was rising. And Lakshman still stood before him. The battle spread across the forest like a raging fire. Vibhishan stepped forward with full force. Demons fell before him. He moved through the battlefield like a storm of justice. Then Vibhishan raised his voice. He called out, O brave Vanars! Do not stop now. This is the moment. Fight with all your strength. Stand for Ram. His words filled the hearts of the Vanar chiefs with courage. Their eyes lit up. With loud roars, the Vanars charged. They attacked with fury. Stones flew. Trees crashed. Claws and fists struck like thunder. Hanuman too joined with unmatched power. He leaped into the air and landed among the demons. With every strike, dozens fell. With every roar, fear spread. Thousands of demons were crushed under his strength. Seeing his army breaking, Indrajit turned again toward Lakshman. His anger had now become deadly focus. He rushed forward. Their eyes met. The duel began again. Arrows flew like blazing fire. Lakshman stood steady. Indrajit attacked with speed and skill. But Lakshman saw his opening. With a sharp aim, he released a powerful arrow. It struck Indrajit's chariot. Indrajit's charioteer fell lifeless. The chariot shook. At that very moment, 4 mighty Vanar chiefs rushed in. They attacked the horses of the chariot. With great force, they brought them down. The chariot broke apart. Wood shattered. Wheels rolled away. Indrajit was left standing on the ground. For a moment, he tried to regain control. He moved quickly to climb onto the broken chariot. But the Vanars did not allow it. They struck again. The remains of the chariot were destroyed completely. Indrajit stepped back. His mind was racing. He looked toward the sky. He knew another path. Vibhishan saw it. His voice rose sharply. He called out, Lakshman, do not let him escape into the clouds. Lakshman looked up. Vibhishan spoke urgently, if he goes there, he will become invisible. You will not be able to see him. He will strike from the sky like a hidden force. His voice grew grave. He continued, and if he gains that advantage, his power will rise again. He once defeated even Indra. He bound him in battle. God Brahma himself had to come and ask for Indra's release. The warning was clear. The air grew tense. Indrajit prepared to rise. Lakshman tightened his bow. This was the moment. The battle reached its peak. Indrajit, filled with anger, closed his eyes for a moment. He spoke secret mantras. And then a new chariot appeared. Not made of wood or iron but created from magic. Dark, shining, and powerful. Indrajit leaped onto it. Vibhishan saw this and shouted, "Hanuman! Stop him! Do not let him rise into the sky." Hanuman nodded. Lakshman did not wait. His arrows flew like a storm. One after another, they rushed toward Indrajit. Trying to escape, Indrajit drove his magical chariot upward. He began to rise into the sky. But Hanuman was faster. With a mighty leap, he blocked his path. He landed right before the chariot. And with one powerful blow, he shattered it. The magical chariot broke apart in the air. Indrajit tried to flee. He turned and rushed through the skies. But Hanuman caught his legs. With great strength, he pulled him down. Hanuman shouted for help, "Vanars! Come! Help me stop him!" The Vanars rushed forward. They surrounded Indrajit. Indrajit struggled and broke free for a moment. He tried to escape again. But this time, Vibhishan stood in his path. Like a wall. Calm. Firm. Unmoving. Vibhishan called out loudly, "Lakshman! Now is the time." Lakshman stepped forward. The final battle began. The air shook with power. Both warriors now used divine weapons. Indrajit created another chariot and rushed again. But Vibhishan moved swiftly. He struck down the horses. He killed the charioteer. The chariot collapsed once more. In anger, Indrajit lifted a deadly javelin. His target was Vibhishan. He hurled it with full force. But Lakshman saw it. In a flash, he released an arrow. It struck the javelin in midair. The weapon fell, broken. Vibhishan was safe. Now the battle turned divine. Indrajit released a Varun weapon. Water rose like a flood. Lakshman answered with a Rudra weapon. The force of destruction shattered the waters. Indrajit sent an Agni weapon. Flames roared like a blazing sun. Lakshman replied with a Surya weapon. The light consumed the fire. They countered each other repeatedly with full force. Power against power. Skill against skill. The sky itself watched in silence. Then Lakshman grew still. He took a deep breath. He placed a powerful arrow on his bow. This arrow carried the energy of Indra. Before releasing it, Lakshman closed his eyes. He spoke with deep faith, "If Ram the son of Dashrath walks the path of truth, if he keeps his promises, if no one equals him in courage, then let this arrow destroy Indrajit." He released the arrow. It flew like destiny. Straight. Sharp. Unstoppable. In a single moment it struck Indrajit. His head was severed. It fell to the ground, shining like gold. Silence fell. Then the demon army broke. Fear spread like fire. They ran toward Lanka. Toward the ocean. Toward the mountains. The heavens rejoiced. Divine music filled the sky. Flowers rained from above. The gods smiled. The Vanars cheered loudly. They surrounded Lakshman. Hanuman stood beside him with pride. Vibhishan bowed his head. Jamban smiled with calm joy. The sky above shone with divine light. The gods gathered in heaven. They spoke with joy and relief. They said, "Blessed is Lakshman. He has done what even we feared." One god spoke. When Lakshman held that arrow, the one filled with Indra's power, even Indra felt fear. Another added, "Indrajit had shaken all the worlds. Even we were not safe from his arrows." They said together, "But today, Lakshman has ended the terror." Their voices rose with praise. He has not only killed Indrajit, he has protected the honor of Indra's own weapon. They continued, "Now the worlds can breathe again. And soon Raavan too will fall at the hands of Ram." The gods continued to talk among themselves. One god said softly, "Do you remember when Raavan once shook the worlds?" Another replied, "Yes, and when Indra himself went to face him." A third voice joined, "Indra, the king of heavens, fought bravely. Raavan was captured and then something even more terrible happened." They grew silent for a moment. Then one spoke with a heavy voice. Meghnad, now known as Indrajit, came like a storm. He seized Indra, held him by the waist and dragged him away. Another god said, "He took Indra to Lanka like a prisoner. For years Indra was held captive, tortured in body and mind." A third voice added, "Raavan and his son had even decided to kill Indra." Then a calm voice spoke, but god Brahma intervened. He came and stopped them. He asked Meghnad to release Indra. The gods nodded and continued, "Yes," and Meghnad agreed. In return, he asked for a boon. One god said, "He asked for immortality." Another replied, "But god Brahma said that no one can be truly immortal." Then the truth was spoken, so instead, he gave him another power. If Meghnad completed the Nikumbhila Yagya, he would gain a celestial chariot, and while mounted on that chariot, no enemy could defeat him. A quiet voice added, but God Brahma also warned him. If someone destroyed that Yagya, that very person would kill him. Another god said, it was God Brahma himself who named him Indrajit, the conqueror of Indra. Then one final voice spoke with deep meaning, and there was one more condition. He could only be killed by a man who had not slept for 14 years. The gods looked down toward the battlefield. Their eyes were filled with awe. They said softly, Lakshman has fulfilled that destiny. And today Indrajit has fallen. On the battlefield, silence had returned. But Lakshman stood wounded. His body was covered with cuts. Blood flowed from many places. Hanuman rushed to him. Vibhishan came close. Together, they held Lakshman carefully. They lifted him and carried him away from the battlefield. In the camp, Ram was restless. His heart was heavy. He walked slowly, deep in thought. He said softly, I have sent Lakshman to face Indrajit. What if something has happened? Just then he saw them. Hanuman and Vibhishan were coming. They were carrying Lakshman. His body was covered in blood. Ram's heart stopped for a moment. He rushed forward. He cried, Lakshman. Vibhishan spoke quickly, O Ram, do not fear. Lakshman has returned victorious. He paused, then said with strength, Indrajit is no more. For a moment, Ram stood silent. Then his eyes filled with relief. A soft smile appeared. The camp came alive. The Vanars shouted with joy. Victory cries echoed everywhere. Hanuman smiled with pride. Jamban nodded with calm happiness. Ram looked at Lakshman. He gently placed his hand on his brother's head. He softly said, You have done a great deed. Then he looked ahead. He continued, The end of Raavan is now close. But Lakshman was still wounded. Ram turned and said, Bring Sushen. Hanuman did not wait. With one leap, he went to Lanka. He brought Sushen, the great healer, to the camp. Sushen looked around. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Ram, I belong to Lanka. I am from your enemy's side. Why should I help you? Ram looked at him calmly. His voice was gentle but firm. He said, I am not speaking to an enemy. I am speaking to a healer. Sushen listened. Ram continued, For a healer, the first duty is always to the patient, not to a king, not to a side. Sushen smiled. He understood. He said, You speak the truth. I will help. Ram said with respect, You know the power of medicines. Lakshman is wounded. Arrows remain in his body. Please save him. Sushen nodded. He went to Lakshman. He began his work. Slowly and carefully. He removed each arrow. One by one. He cleaned the wounds. Then he applied powerful medicines. A sweet fragrance filled the air. The herbs began their work. The medicine entered Lakshman's body. And then something changed. Lakshman's breathing became steady. His wounds began to heal. His strength returned. Soon, his body looked as it was before. Strong, calm, alive. Ram watched this with deep relief. He folded his hands toward Sushen. He said to Sushen, There is no one equal to you in the science of healing. Sushen bowed slightly. And in that moment, hope grew stronger. He was dropped back in Lanka with honor by Hanuman. Ashok Vatika stood quiet. Sita sat under the tree. Her eyes were filled with pain but also patience. Trijata came running. Her face was different today. There was no fear in it, only surprise and hope. She bowed to Sita and said softly, O Sita, listen carefully. Indrajit has been killed. Sita looked up. Her heart paused for a moment. Trijata continued, He was killed in the morning. But no one in Lanka had the courage to tell Raavan. All the messengers were afraid. Sita listened quietly. Her eyes filled with tears, but this time, not only of sorrow. There was pride too. She folded her hands softly and said, Blessed is Lakshman. He has done what even the gods could not do. Her voice was calm, filled with respect. She continued, He has protected dharm. He has protected the honor of Ram. For a moment, she became silent. Her eyes drifted far away into memory. Then she spoke slowly, But what if I had not crossed that line? Trijata looked at her with curiosity. She asked, What line, Sita? Sita looked at her and said, When Ram went after the golden deer and Lakshman followed him, he drew a line around the hut. A sacred line. He told me, Do not cross this under any condition. Trijata listened closely. Sita continued, Raavan came there in disguise. He stood outside but he did not dare to step inside. Her voice grew firm. She continued, he had no courage to cross that line. Trijata's eyes widened. Sita lowered her head slightly. She said, I crossed it to give food to a poor man. I thought it was my duty. And from that moment all this happened. She took a deep breath. Then she said with quiet strength, this shows the power of Lakshman. Ravan, the king of Lanka, the terror of worlds, could not cross even a single line drawn by him. Her eyes shone with deep understanding as she proudly said, imagine then how strong Lakshman truly is. Blessed is my sister Urmila to have a husband like Lakshman. Trijata stood silent. Even she felt the truth. And in that moment Sita's faith grew even stronger. The end was near. The sun had now reached the middle of the sky. It was noon. At last, one messenger gathered courage. With trembling steps, he entered Ravan's court. Ravan sat on his throne. His eyes were fierce. His presence was heavy. The messenger bowed low. His voice shook. He carefully said, my lord, Indrajit, our prince has been killed. The words fell like thunder. Ravan froze. For a moment, the world stopped. Then he fell from his throne. The court was thrown into chaos. Ministers rushed forward. They lifted him. They sprinkled water on his face. Slowly, Ravan opened his eyes. And then he cried out. A cry filled with pain. He shouted, Indrajit, where have you gone, my son? His voice broke as he said, O son of Ravan and Mandodari, you who conquered the gods. And yet a human has killed you. His anger rose. His eyes turned red. He roared, this has happened because of Vibhishan. That traitor, that coward. If I survive this war, I will tear Vibhishan apart. I will cut him into pieces. But even as he spoke his pain returned. He lowered his head. Tears flowed. In another part of the palace, Mandodari heard the news. Her body went weak. She fell to the ground. The women around her rushed forward. They poured water on her head. They tried to wake her. Some placed their fingers near her nose to check if she still breathed. After some time she opened her eyes. And then her sorrow burst out. She cried, my son, I prayed to God Shiva for you. I waited, I hoped, and you were born. Her voice trembled as she continued, you were my pride, my strength. She held her chest and asked, now what is left for me? What do I live for now? Her cries filled the palace. A mother's grief echoed through Lanka. But far away destiny was moving forward. Ravan's world had begun to break. In this episode, we saw the war reach a decisive turn. Lakshman stood before Indrajit at Nikumbhila, where a ritual meant to grant invincibility was burning. We saw harsh words spoken between blood and dharm, as Indrajit accused and Vibhishan stood firm in truth. The battle that followed shook the skies. Arrows flew like storms. Armor shattered. Even as wounds covered his body, Lakshman did not step back. We saw Hanuman rise with strength and wisdom. He broke the sacred fire and destroyed the ritual that protected Indrajit. He dragged the demon prince down from the skies, denying him the power of invisibility. Around them, the Vanars fought with fierce courage. Vibhishan stood beside Lakshman, protecting him, guiding him, and striking down the forces of Lanka. Then came the final moment. Divine weapons clashed. Fire met light. Water met destruction. And in the end, Lakshman stood still, called upon truth, and released an arrow filled with Indra's power. That arrow did not miss. Indrajit, the terror of the worlds, fell. With his fall, fear left the battlefield. The demon army broke. The heavens rejoiced. And hope returned to Ram's side. We then saw Lanka drown in grief. Ravan fell from his throne. His pride shattered with the loss of his son. Mandodari wept as a mother who had lost everything. In Ashok Vatika, Sita heard the news. She praised Lakshman and reflected on the strength that once protected her. Even in sorrow, her faith grew stronger. Back in the camp, joy rose like a new dawn. Ram saw his brother return victorious. Yet he also saw his wounds. And so, we witnessed compassion and dharm in action. Sushane, though from Lanka, chose his duty as a healer above all else. Under his care, Lakshman rose again, strong and steady, ready for what lies ahead. The war has now changed forever. Indrajit has fallen. Lanka has lost its greatest shield. Only Ravan remains. In the next episode, we will see how Ravan responds to this loss. We will witness the storm within his heart and the decisions that will shape the final battle. The end is near, but the greatest clash is yet to come. Join me in the next episode, as fury, illusion, and fate meet once more on the burning fields of Lanka. Share this podcast with your loved ones and let the timeless lessons of the Ramayana inspire your journey. Though the details of this ancient tale may vary across traditions, its essence reminds us of the enduring power of compassion, courage, and hope in the face of adversity. Until next time, may the light of dharm illuminate your path and fill your heart with peace.
Monster Energy. Everybody knows White Monster Zero Ultra. That's the OG. It kicked off this whole zero sugar energy drink thing. But Ultra is a whole lineup now. You've got Strawberry Dreams, Blue Hawaiian, Sunrise, and Vice Guava. And they all bring the Monster Energy punch. So if you've been living in the white can, branch out. Ultra's got a flavor for every vibe. And every single one is zero sugar. Tap the banner to learn more.